everyone, welcome back to Weird Pod. I'm Susie.
I'm Rick.
And today we're talking all about money. Now, a bit of background about why we're talking about money. I was going to make a YouTube video explaining why Brits don't care about money, because that's my perspective, is that compared to many other cultures, we seem to not be as bothered. And I did a poll on my Instagram audience, and over half of them actually said that they think we do care about money. So I was thinking, okay, maybe this is a bit more of a complex topic. We should maybe have a discussion about this. So a bit more suited to the podcast, maybe. Rick, do you think that we care about money in the UK?
We do, insofar as everyone cares about money to some extent, because you have to look after yourself and your family. But we have a much more relaxed attitude to it than I think some other cultures do. And this is actually goes back to what we were talking about in terms of maybe East versus West, because I think people are, generally speaking, much more organized with their money in the East. We're a bit more relaxed about it in the West. Why exactly that is, not too sure. We're going to get into that in the episode. But I think that Brits, we care about money to some extent. But I think, in a lot of ways, we're pretty laid back.
Yeah, so we'll get on to that, and also make sure to stick around till the end. So what have you been up to for the last week, Rick?
Well, other than thinking about money, I have been listening to a lot of new music. I think last time we were talking about Brazilian music. This time I've been listening to music from Sudan, which has been very exciting. So that's something I discovered since I moved to Dubai, and I've been really getting into, and just absolutely loving it. It's Sudanese pop music from the 70s mostly, which, there's a lot of really good stuff on Spotify, and I've just been going through that, and it's been great.
Is one of the ones something that you sent me?
No, I think I sent you some Brazilian stuff. I don't think I sent you any Sudanese, but I will do. I'll send you some stuff. And then I also went to an Oktoberfest party, which was which is, I guess, for maybe some listeners who don't know what that is. It's a German celebration in October. They call it Oktoberfest. And basically people get together and they drink a lot, which is exactly what I did. So I sort of broke my healthy rules and had a lot to drink. And we played some German games and it was great. Really good fun. But now I'm back to being healthy again.
Okay, good. Yeah, because the listeners are like, no, Rick, your liver. Think of the liver.
No, everything's under control. It's fine. But I had a great time with my friends. I've now recovered from Oktoberfest and now I'm just back to my healthy routine. So that was fun. What have you been up to?
I have been... Well, we finally got our flooring done upstairs.
Excellent.
Which is fairly boring, but it's very exciting for us because it means that we can finally sort out our house. So that'll be nice to have a nice clean space. And I also had a friend from Taiwan visit. Oh. Yeah, so I just showed her around Brighton. She's thinking of moving here, actually. So we're talking a bit about that. Great. And it was just nice to see her.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, not too eventful.
Excellent. That sounds so nice.
So let's get into the meat of it. So we can start with the question. If someone has this perception, which I think a lot of people do, 45% according to my Instagram poll, the question is, why do British people seem to not care about money? Well, I guess there's a lot of different reasons, really, aren't there? The first thing that comes to mind is, I think, a lot of complacency, to be honest. People are like, don't have much money, but it's going to be fine somehow. And I wonder if that's to do with the welfare state in this country.
It could be a factor. So I guess, we'd probably have to explain what the welfare state is to listeners who maybe don't know what that is. It basically just means the benefits and money that the government will give you in case you're in trouble or if you're not earning very much. So if you're on a low wage, you can get some money from the government. That's called universal credit. You can get money to help with your rent. If you lose your job, you'll get a little bit of money. And obviously we have free healthcare as well, which is part of the welfare state. Education is also free here. It's free in a lot of countries, but anyway, it is all kind of part of the same thing. It's not as generous as it used to be. When we were kids, it was much more generous. In recent years, it's become less generous. They've cut back on a lot of government benefits. But there is some kind of safety net. If you lose your job, if you get ill, if something bad happens, there will be something to catch you in the end. Some people make the argument that this is what's kind of made us a bit more complacent about money in recent years. I'm not sure if I fully buy into it. I'm honestly not sure. I think if you go back to our grandparents' generation, a lot of them grew up without the welfare state, but then when they were quite young, that's when it came in. And they were much more careful with money. than we are, certainly. And then I think our parents' generation are quite good with money. I think it's our generation and the subsequent generations that are not so great with money. So I think it's more to do with we've just got too used to having too many comforts. I think maybe it's to do with living standards. We've got to a level where we're more comfortable than we used to be, and we sort of take it for granted, maybe. Now, the welfare state could be part of that, but I imagine it's more to do with we've just got too comfortable and we think it's all going to kind of last forever type of thing. Or maybe there's just something in Britain. There's just something in us, because there's plenty of other countries where they have high living standards and they do look after money, like in Japan, for example, other countries. Korea's another one. Maybe there's just something in us that is just a bit more happy-go-lucky and we just don't care. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's happy-go-lucky because that almost sounds positive. But I guess probably a lot of people are quite anxious about money. And it's not an ideal situation, but it just kind of happens. Okay, so what you were saying about the welfare state, so there's a way to say that in speaking, which is someone is on benefits, which means they're receiving money from the government because of low income or disability or something like that. Guess what percentage of the population are on benefits in the UK?
That's a good question. I'm going to guess less than 10%.
Well, according to ChatGPT, well, there's different data sources, but one says about 10%, another says 23%, the third source says 14.5%. So something in that category. Does that surprise you?
No, because we have a very old population, and if you're old, you can claim different benefits. Also, it's a common misconception that benefits are just for people who don't have jobs. A lot of people who are in jobs also claim benefits. So people who don't have a job, people who have a job but it's a low wage, and then people who are old, and people who care for other people, they all can claim. I would say around 10% is not that surprising.
There's also something called job seekers allowance. So if you're looking for a job for a long time, you can claim some money from the government. I think that's actually probably a bit lower than I was expecting as well. I thought it would be surprisingly high. So another thing that might tell us if people are good with money or not, and if that's improved over time, is the number of people in debt. First thing is, guess how many people needed debt advice last year?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to say 15%.
Bang on. That's exactly what ChatGPT is telling me. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm not, that's not me cheating, by the way. I genuinely guessed that.
Guess roughly how much debt they owed last year.
I would guess somewhere in the region between 10 and 20,000 pounds.
It's saying around £35,000 per adult.
That's so much.
That's quite a lot.
See, I think this is, okay, so this to me is much more revealing about the nature of why we're so bad with money. Because, we're clearly much more indebted than like other countries are. So is there just something about us where like we just want to have it all right now and we can't build and work for something slowly? We just want it now.
Yeah.
Is it something about our society is encouraging us to think like this?
I think definitely in East Asia, there's a perception that people in the West are lazy. Which you can see in comparison, for sure.
maybe they have a point, to be fair. Just getting into this habit of like racking up a load of debt, spending money that you don't have. It is a very common. I mean, I've been in small amounts of debt even in my life. Not huge, nothing like that, but small amounts, and just didn't really think anything of it. Didn't think it was an issue.
I mean, there's also student debt, which, to be fair, the student fees have increased. So that's probably a big reason why people's amount of debt has increased. But it's saying there's over the last 10 years, there's been an 82% increase in the amount of debt that people owe.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. 10 years. Well, it could be to do with the cost of living. Just surviving in the UK is getting, I'm not trying to put anybody off moving, but living in the UK has got more, it's got more expensive over the last few years, especially things like energy and food. They're definitely going up.
Yeah.
So I think people and wages have not risen to keep up with that. So I think maybe it's to do with, it's just harder and harder to keep up, and people look for quick fixes. And they just sort of go, okay, I'll take on some debt. The payday loans became a huge thing in the last few years. Cheap short-term loans that you can get from websites, but they have really, really, paying them back is extremely...
High interest rate.
Really high interest rates, but people take them on anyway. It's almost like being addicted to debt in a way. And people are buying all kinds of things with it. It's not just for like your basics. It's for like anything, stuff that you don't necessarily need. So that's become a big issue as well.
Yeah, I always think it's strange though, because so that's perceived to be bad. Like, oh, you shouldn't take out a loan for anything except a house. Like, oh no, don't be in debt. But if you think about it, like the richest people in the world, usually they're rich because they took out a huge loan. Like often it's borrowing money to make money.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I'm just like, how does that?
We see the ones who do make it and make a lot of money with their loans. We don't really hear about all the people who took a loan and their business didn't work out and then they just got into a load of debt. The most visible ones are the most successful ones. But most people,
the lucky ones, I guess.
The lucky ones, exactly. There's got to be partially a factor. The ones who fail, which is the majority of people who start a business, we never really hear from them. I guess you wouldn't think to go on about your failed business, really. You'd probably try and keep that to yourself. But it seems to be a particular problem in Britain about taking on lots of personal debt and not being able to pay it back. It is a specific issue. Is it to do with consumerism? Is it to do with some general bigger problem about Western society? I don't know, but it is definitely a phenomenon and it's not as pronounced in other countries.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so the reasons why Brits might care less about money, well, I guess we don't have a strong culture of saving, which we've kind of talked about compared to other countries, especially like China and India. We maybe not as good at thinking about saving and just more comfortable borrowing money like through credit cards. And then just less emphasis on achievement, isn't it? I mean, we don't have this kind of hustle. I mean, the pressure from parents is quite different, isn't it, compared to East Asia anyway?
We definitely don't have the tiger mum phenomenon. That's much rarer in the UK, I would say. And we do have a bigger focus on work-life balance, which we should talk a little bit about at least. So there's that easy phrase, people say this all the time at work as a way of like describing how they feel about work. They say like, do you live to work or work to live? Some people do live to work. They absolutely love coming in. They want to work long hours. They want to make lots of money. They want to rise up really quickly. I would say most people in the UK probably work to live, which means they just do enough work to give them enough money to sort of live a kind of normal, reasonably comfortable life, and they leave it at that. That's enough.
Yeah.
That's
just
certainly
happy
how I
with
describe.
this relatively simple life, isn't it?
That's how I describe my approach to life, certainly. And I
Is
think
it? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think it applies to a lot of people in the UK. It's not this mad race to move up as quickly as possible. It's about having some balance between your work and your life outside of work. And you don't necessarily define yourself by what job you do. Certainly less than in other countries. I think, like if you have a job, say like a doctor or a lawyer or engineer, maybe one of the sort of big jobs, then yes, it might be a stronger part of your identity. There's that reputation that comes with it. It's quite, well respected. But I think for a lot of people who just kind of do all kinds of jobs, no, they don't feel like it's a strong part of their identity. It's just something they have to do for money.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite a common thing in Britain. It's just, this is a job. I'm not going to go crazy trying to get promotions and move up. I'm just happy making some money and that's it.
Yeah, I think you can kind of tell this from the way people respond when you tell them what you do. Like in the UK, in my experience on the whole, most people would be quite open to, what do you do? Oh, okay, I don't know what that is, never heard of it. They usually withhold judgment, I would have thought. Again, it really depends where you are. Maybe because I'm in Brighton, it's a bit more liberal. But I think often in East Asia, you can sense that there's a bit more categorizing of people or like judging. So if you said you're an engineer or a doctor, there would be like, oh, wow, yeah, interested. And if you're an artist or something, there might be more of a negative judgment. I don't know if that's a bit harsh to say, but I think I've experienced that side of things a bit.
Interesting. There is definitely less of a focus on like making the best of yourself in some ways. Not everything in your life has to be absolutely 10 out of 10, the very best. Even like maximizing your potential, which is, very sort of almost like a cliched phrase. But yeah, it's just not something that's expected of you as much in the UK. It's more about doing something that you're comfortable with, something that's going to make you enough money and something that you're happy with, rather than chasing a kind of some sort of ideal that might not necessarily match up with who you are as a person. It's not always about getting the most highest paying job, the most well-respected job, the biggest house, the nicest car. just less of an emphasis on that. I do think, again, that's something that existed a little bit more in the past, but then has since died off. I think especially with jump between our parents' generation and our generation. I think our generation feel that like a lot of material improvement is probably not going to happen for us for various reasons. Cost of living, wages not growing, lots of recessions and crazy stuff happening like COVID. And I think a lot of our generation has just given up on the idea that each generation is going to be successively more and more materially rich,
affluent.
Affluent, exactly. I do think to some extent we've given up on that, which is kind of sad, but I think that's just the situation that we find ourselves in.
I wonder if it's also seeing our parents' generation be maybe more well off and have, decent careers, some of them, but be very stressed and very negative about work. I mean, I think that's my experience. My parents did quite well for themselves, but my attitude towards work is I really want to enjoy it and I don't want to be crushed in order to make money. That's kind of my perspective on it. So I don't know if other people also have that in our generation.
I definitely think with our parents' generation and especially grandparents' generation, the idea is if you get a job, absolutely try and make the most of it, because especially grandparents, they grew up in a time that their parents would remember the Great Depression, which also was in the UK and the US and other places. And they would remember a lot of not having a lot of money, things being quite unstable. So that if you did have a job, you had to take it more seriously. I wonder if our generation, but because we grew up relatively a bit more materially affluent than previous generations, it actually you reach a sort of high point where you sort of think, well, what else is there now that we've reached this level? What else is going on? So I think you almost have to get to that level before you get kids sort of going, I'd rather follow my dreams, or I'd rather not work that hard, or I'd rather do this, do that. So you almost, you have to go through those first generations of working really hard and being very stressed. And then people start relaxing a bit, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's totally that. It's growing up in relative comfort and thinking, well, I don't need to try so hard, forgetting the fact that the reason you're living in comfort is because of previous generations working their butts off.
Yes, I think that might have something to do with it, yeah.
But we've got a stat here. Between 1981 and 2022, the percentage of people who think less importance should be placed on work has grown from 26% to 43%. So I guess, that's what you're saying about people looking for other ways of finding joy and fulfillment in life and not just placing their whole identity on their job.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't surprise me. And it does make me wonder, because if you look to the East and you've got people working extremely hard and trying to raise themselves up, in a couple of generations, if they build the same wealth themselves, which it's looking like they definitely will they end up in the same position as us, where their kids are sort of going, things are a bit too difficult now, or maybe I want to be an artist, maybe I want to do this, do that, maybe I don't want to work so hard.
It's already like that.
It's already happening.
It's already there. Okay. I mean, there's this trend called 躺平, which means lying flat.
I've heard of this, yes.
Yeah, young generations being like, I'm out. I check out kind of thing, which I think is more because of the fierceness of the competition of the workplace, and people don't want to submit themselves to that. But I think absolutely, people reaching that wealth and then feeling like what's next, bit existential.
So it's a bit of both, isn't it? Your economic circumstances sometimes almost prohibit you from wanting to advance really quickly because you just think it's not going to happen for me. Like the situation millennials find themselves in, things are too expensive. And then also on the other side of it, it's your family getting you up to a level where you begin to see through material gain and you start to think about, what else could I do with my life type of thing. So maybe it's both of those things. But the fact seems to be, yes, in the UK, over the past, say, 40, 50 years, we're just trending away from taking our work seriously, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think so.
That seems to be the trend.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with Gen Z what their attitude is, because I think a lot of them are like, I want to have a different type of job. I'm not going to follow the career path because I can see that that's actually not going to make me that well off, because I'm going to have to spend years and years and years climbing the ladder or whatever. So they're like, well, I'm going to be a TikTok influencer or something. So it's a bit, I guess, kind of go-getter, but more in a I want to live how I want to live sort of way.
Yeah, I've heard like conflicting things about the generation after us, Gen Z. I've heard in some ways that they're even less interested in hard work than we are. But then, yes, I hear on the other side they're much more interested in like hustling, starting their own things, building their own brands, building their own businesses. So some people seem to suggest that they're actually much more business-minded and much more about securing themselves materially because of everything that we've been through, COVID, recessions, etc., Brexit, etc. So I'm not really sure what to make of it. I do think sometimes you read a lot of things about what the next generation are saying, and then they're not exactly accurate. But we're going to have to see. Maybe they will become more hardworking. Maybe they'll be even more like us. We'll have to see how they mature.
Yeah, I guess the thing is that even if a huge fraction of them are, it's actually very threatening for the older generations, isn't it? Because it's like someone might have worked, let's say, in media for years and years and years. They've built a reputation, they work in this huge company, but then suddenly media's switched to social media and they're not in that game and they don't understand it. You know, and like, okay, well, these young people, they're like beautiful and like full of energy and they can sell themselves online really well. And then when you get older, like your ability to do that is not quite the same, I guess.
It very much could happen. You never know. Overnight industries can change very quickly, and then all of a sudden what came before was completely irrelevant. So it's not to say it couldn't happen. Yeah. But let's see. It'll be very telling to see what Gen Z do in the next few years, because they're going to start getting into their sort of mid and late 20s, some of them. You know, you start to mature, and what do you start doing with the money that you've made, and have you made that much money? So we're going to really see in the next few years, especially, where have they ended up as a generation? Have they improved on our generation, or have they done worse? So it'll be very interesting to see. But
yeah, totally.
Yes,
really interesting.
Time will tell.
So I guess when we're talking about materialism, this is the main reason why this question popped into my head of like, why do Brits not care about money? I think it's more, why do we not care about showing off our money as much? Like fancy cars, branded clothes, telling everyone how much money you're making. Like it's less of a thing here. I think on the one hand, it's like, well, it's polite not to talk about money and you don't want to be seen to be boasting or showing off.
Yeah.
But then why is that? And it's probably to do with the old class system, isn't it?
I think it has to be a factor at some point, for sure.
Yeah, you need to hide your wealth so that people don't judge your class as much. And to be honest, maybe it's more if you're very wealthy, if you're in like the upper classes, you don't want to be seen to be really wealthy because you could make people very jealous or angry, maybe.
Yeah, it's all about downplaying it. Even if you're extremely wealthy, you should always kind of downplay it and not flaunt it, not be boastful, not show it off to everyone. Yeah, it is about, to some extent, hiding it. Whereas in other kind of societies, it really isn't about that. So, for example, where I live now in Dubai, perfectly fine to be quite open about your wealth and how you've made it and, buy and show off lots of expensive things. It's a culture of aspiration. It's more about thinking, oh, well, how could I be like this person? Rather than this person should hide what they are to make me feel better. So it's kind of looking at it the opposite way around. Yeah, it's where entrepreneurialism is like celebrated a lot.
Yeah.
But sort of it's similar in America as well.
Yeah. It's making me think that it's actually quite dark, because if you think about it, why have those upper classes in the UK, how have they become so rich? Well, it's usually generations and generations back, their grandparent was involved in something like slave trade, some trade that was exploitative towards people in other countries. Yeah, so it's like there's this secretiveness about, because some of these families can be absolutely loaded, unimaginable amounts of money.
Yeah.
But it's not celebrated, it's a bit hush-hush. I think it's because there's a dark history there. People feel a bit uncomfortable, a bit guilty about it sometimes. Maybe that is part of it, yeah. You just sort of would rather the truth of where the money came from not get out or something. It could be all kinds, the money could come from all kinds of places, yeah, as you say, that you'd rather just not get into. So maybe that's part of it as well. It's just better not to discuss it at all because it's going to come back on you and it might cause you problems. But I think the idea of it being influenced by classes, I would definitely agree with that. I think there's just a system where, yes, certain people are supposed to be above other people, but part of the system is you're just not supposed to make the people lower than you feel bad about it. It's better to kind of hide it away and not talk about it. So because if they feel really bad about it, they might revolt.
That's a good point. Yeah, exactly. It's better just to cover it all up and keep it, and then we can keep it the same that way. Yes, which has happened a few times in British history. Obviously, there's been revolutions and people getting very angry about not having much money, and it's happened time and time again. Yes, I think that very well may be part of the equation. The bottom line is, yeah, don't talk too openly about the money you make and how much you have.
Yeah, in the lower classes, I think there's more of a sense of, well, I'm not going to make that much money ever anyway. I often feel like people almost have this already given up type attitude that they've probably got from their parents. It's like, well, I'm only ever going to reach this salary, so I'm not going to particularly try or even care about it that much.
They do say there's like successive governments in Britain have tried to sort of correct that by getting people to think more aspirationally and not letting your circumstances dictate where you're going to get to in life. Tried different schemes and initiatives to improve what we call social mobility, which is your ability to move into different classes. And it's had varying degrees of success. But yeah, I think a big part of it is the kind of circumstances you're born into and what your parents tell you. Some people's parents, they will say, yeah, this is kind of all I got. It's probably all you're going to get. They might even discourage you from trying to sort of change that. Some parents, you're born into maybe difficult circumstances, but then they have an attitude of, oh, I can change this. There is something you can do. They instill that in you, and then hopefully you can do the same. But I think for a lot of people, they don't think like that. And they just think, well, yeah, this is all I'm going to get. It's going to stay that way. And it's very sad because it has nothing to do with someone's potential. It's more just what you get taught as a kid, which obviously does stay with you.
Yeah, very limiting. That is one of the huge issues in this country, isn't it? Getting over that old class system. But yeah, 100%. It's just very strange in a way that having money can be seen as a bad thing. It's like, that person's loaded. Where, people might even feel less bad ripping you off, negative things that come with being rich, so that people try to hide it, possibly for that reason.
Yeah, we definitely don't have optimistic, entrepreneurial, like anyone can make it attitude.
It's not like, oh, well done you.
Yeah, it's more like I'd rather pull this other person down than push myself up kind of thing, which is strange because in lots of other similar countries they don't really have this attitude. They have different attitudes to it. In the Scandinavian countries it's much more like egalitarian. You just, how much money you have and everything doesn't have to say everything about you. It's not this culture of kind of being envious and everything. In America and where I live now in the UAE, it's more aspirational. Yeah, anyone can do it. You've just got to have a good idea and work hard and you can go up like this. So it's just strange how it varies so much between places. Yeah,
if you are very wealthy, the recommendation is to just stay modest, stay humble. I think that's what people like here, just stay humble. So we've got some listener questions here. I'll just read them out and then maybe we can see what we think. So the first one, Brits care about money, but they don't say it, i.e. it can be rude to ask about housing price or salary. Definitely, yes, don't ask anyone about their house price or salary.
Yeah, please don't do that. I think it's as we've discussed, okay, we don't have a sort of obsession with making loads of money and bettering ourselves, but at the same time, when it comes to comparing with each other, tread very carefully because it can be quite a touchy subject.
Next one. Why is it that most of the Brits live in a very frugal way? Why do they shop in a charity shop? What's interesting is that sometimes people can actually be relatively well off and still shop in a charity shop. And I think that's about not wanting to be wasteful, wanting to get a bargain. There's that feeling of oh, wow, I found this really decent piece of clothing and it only cost £10. It's like feeling like you've got something for not much.
Yeah, I think everyone loves a bargain in the UK. It's not all about how expensive the thing is. If you can get something really nice for not much, that's a win for most people. So yeah, loads of people shop in charity shops. People who have a lot of money, people who don't have that much. It's just quite a popular thing. But as we've discussed, I don't think we really live in a frugal way. We talked about people having loads of debt and stuff. No, I don't think we're particularly frugal as a country, unfortunately.
But another thing about charity shops is people care less about hygiene here in comparison to East Asia. Yeah. So, if you don't care that someone else wore this bit of clothing, then it's not going to matter, is it? It's just a cheap thing. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we care about that stuff.
Increasingly, I do think more and more about that, though. Where has this thing actually been?
Yeah, since COVID, I got a lot more germophobic, but I still think most people don't really care. It's fine.
Okay, next one. British people who care about money might have been influenced by Jeremy Bentham.
Bentham.
Who's that? Who's Jeremy
Bentham? He's a philosopher.
Yeah. Is that to do with utilitarianism?
Yes, it is. Yeah. I doubt. I'm not sure who sent this in, but yeah, I doubt most people who have a lot of money or who really care about money know who Jeremy Bentham is or were particularly influenced by his philosophy. They just
I think someone might have done a bit of research and is trying to sound clever there. But fair enough. Possibly. Yeah, these things will be influenced by philosophies way back in the day. Yeah, influencing our general culture. Okay, next one. Since the UK has a well-developed financial sector, they're likely to care about money. Not so. Yeah, maybe because of what we've said, reaching a certain level of comfort and then maybe looking towards other things at that point.
And we have to remember as well, the people actually involved in the financial sector are it's a very small group of people. Most people are not involved in financial sector at all. Actually, as a country, apparently a lot of unlike America, for example, most British people don't bother investing even in stocks and things like that, even on a very amateur level. We do have a well-developed financial sector, but yeah, most people have absolutely nothing to do with it.
And we should caveat by saying it really, really, really depends on the person. Like if you're living in an affluent area of London, your experience of Brits' attitudes towards money is going to be completely different to probably most of the country. Next one. Brits will buy something to just put in the garden for decoration, even when they're broke.
If they have a garden, yeah, maybe. But yeah, like spending money when you don't necessarily have it. Yeah, a lot of people do that. I think that depends on the person, really. But certainly spending money you don't have, a lot of us do that.
Yeah, I think it probably is a laziness. People haven't been taught how to delay gratification and work hard in order to make your own money. Next one. Brits are more focused on mental freedom. Yes, I would agree with that.
So yeah, it goes back to the work-life balance thing. I think people would rather have more time to do other things rather than just work. Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, not being a slave to some sort of industry. When Brits are at the pub, their money goes quick. Yeah, it can do.
Well, we've already spoken about drinking on a different episode, but yeah, pubs are really expensive now, and yeah, if you're there for a long time, you can spend a lot of money in the pub. And I know that from first hand. I know that from my own experience. So yes, you can spend a lot of money in the pub. And a lot of people do spend money in the pub. But as we discussed, a lot like younger people now, they don't go to the pub anymore. So they're wasting their money on something else.
Okay, next one. An ex who is British, never downloaded any discount app, Tesco Club Card, has always been paying full price for the past 30 years. And whenever they have a bit of change or coins, they will give it to the homeless people. Okay, so just the perception that this person doesn't care. They haven't bothered to just download an app that would save them money. It's just that attitude of laziness, isn't it?
Yeah, I relate to that a lot because I'm really bad with vouchers and club cards and discount cards. That's what a Tesco Club Card is, by the way. It gives you points when you buy stuff and then you can use the points to buy other stuff. So it's just like a really easy way of saving money. But yeah, I don't do that. I'm really bad for vouchers and little discounts and saving money, and I just can't be bothered. It feels like admin to me. And I think a lot of people are also in that. Just not that focused on saving, not that focused on watching what you spend.
So what are we focused on?
That's probably a whole other episode, really. What are we actually doing with our time? But because I don't know. I don't know, really.
It's not that sense of moving forward to achieve something. It's like just existing and wanting to chill. It's like I just want to hang out with my friends and watch TV.
Yeah, I think we just want to be left alone, really, to be honest, more than anything else. I think we're not so obsessed with buildings. As you say, like building stuff or whatever, just leave me alone. Don't make me work that much. Just, let me enjoy my time. And I really relate to that personally. So, yeah. That's.
Next one. When Brits shop, they don't compare price, and overdraft seems common here. So overdraft is when you've gone into debt, but your bank doesn't actually give you that loan. So there's like a fee you have to pay for going into the negative on your bank.
It's pretty common. People to be in their overdrafts. Again, spending money they don't have. Super, super common. And Brits don't compare prices, the person says. Again, it's like the other one, not downloading like the apps, discount apps and stuff. Yeah, we're pretty bad for that, I would say, unfortunately.
Yeah, I do kind of relate to this. Like I know that I buy fruit and vegetable that's probably way too expensive. But it's because I want that particular one. Like I saw it and it looks juicy and nice. So I'm like, well, I just want that. And it's only an extra £1 or £2. So it's like I can't be bothered to think of it.
Yeah, it's like instant gratification. It feels more like work to save all this money and do all this stuff. So we don't bother with it. It's just, I want it now, I'm going to have it now. That's how we think. It says here, another one says, Brits care about living cost more than how much they've saved up. English people don't seem to have a clear money organizing plan. Yeah, I'd agree with that. We're just living paycheck to paycheck, month to month, year to year. There's not a big plan about, I'm going to save this money, having clear goals about your finances. It's just whatever happens, you know.
Yeah, and then I also get that whole thing about complaining about the cost of living rather than looking to how you can fix your own situation. It's like, oh, it's everyone else's fault. It's the government's fault. It's something else. It's not the fact that I'm lazy.
Possibly, yeah. I think that's certainly part of it, just to kind of would rather let someone else deal with it.
Well, we're being very negative now about our own people, aren't we?
It's fine. I think they'll forgive us. The last one says, Brits actually earn okay, but then always be like, oh, I don't have money. Relative to costs, we actually don't earn that well, to be perfectly honest with you. Even in places like London, where you get the best wages, but things are still even more expensive. No, I would say, yeah, fair enough, we're not the best with money, but it's not to say that we earn lots of money as well. I really don't think that's the case.
I think so. It's probably also that thing of hiding your wealth and trying to be modest about it. So you actually have a lot of money, but you're like, no, I'm really poor.
That's true. You wouldn't go, you're not supposed to go around saying, even if you have lots of money, yeah, you're not supposed to go around saying that you have lots of money.
Interestingly, I remember it would be the same with grades at school. Like the kids that got really good grades would really keep that on the down low. Like, oh no, I'm going to fail. I haven't done any revision. And then they get the best grade.
Maybe they didn't want to be bullied.
Yeah, because there's this like negativity towards success, which is really strange. Our culture is so weird.
We're just allergic to success, yeah.
Very odd.
It is very odd, yeah. But this is how it is, and that's what it's like. I hope this has been helpful to everyone. Hope you've learned something about how bad we are with money.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.